Cheers.
Cheers. To Dasha. to our fond memory of
Who she was.
liking Dasha
In my imagination.
before we saw her first directorial debut.
Yeah, no, it's yeah.
Scary on 61st. Terrible film name.
I like it. I think it's a good film name.
You like that?
Yeah. It feels so classic horror movie, and she's got the good font with it, and the font's pink, and
Yeah.
I would do that. I like that.
But thus, it doesn't make sense. It's
The
like
scary of 60. It's the horror of Hill House. It's the.
except the horror of Hill House grammatically makes sense. So,
I think I think it works.
So should I?
The scary. It's poetic. Like, it's wordplay. Yeah.
Okay, I understand poetic. I understand wordplay. But, well, I mean, it just can't. If it was a good movie, then I'd have a much different opinion of the title.
Well, I wanted to watch this movie partly because I liked the title and the title card.
Interesting.
Yeah, I liked the pink curly font, and it was like a girly, scary movie. I love it.
Oh yeah, can we talk about that? What kind of movie was it gonna be?
I
in
thought,
your imagination?
okay.
A girly, scary movie.
Well, I think, I knew it was like an Epstein thing,
Yeah.
and so I was going like, all these girls against this scary force, and it's the haunting thing, but it would be more like The Cell or something, where like it's, these girls versus this outside. Like, I didn't think there would be this possession element.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it would be like, we gotta run away from these like scary guys that are trying to get us,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And they have to like use their wits
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah. I didn't know that they'd just be like doing drugs and like trying to recreate the horrors they were running from.
That's what we watched, yeah. We watched girls get high on Adderall and get obsessed with Epstein and then get possessed with both Epstein victim ghosts and Epstein murder rapist guy ghosts at the same time.
Yeah.
And there's basically 3 or 4 actors in the whole film, 3 girls and a guy who's one of the boyfriends. And the boyfriend is just there to be made fun of, I guess. And to like be, well, he's the only pillar that any of them can reach out for.
Yeah.
When shit's going haywire.
Yeah.
He's the only person any of them know, because they're all super isolated, I guess.
And he's outside of the obsession, and yeah, I think the Addie character, Greg's girlfriend Addie, is the one that
who gets maximally possessed. The mostest.
And I think she was from LA or something. There was some mention of that she'd been living in LA before.
So like he was too, you mean?
Just to explain their isolation. Like they're new around here.
Yeah. But because of their isolation, he's like the connection to the outside world. And he just rebuffs them. And, well, I wrote in the write-up that, like, he understands that they're stewing in this, like, bringing this on themselves, and he doesn't want to have anything to do with this bullshit.
Sure, yeah.
Like, him being a basic bitch, and, like, they make fun of him throughout the film for being basic.
Yeah.
But that's what protects him.
Yeah. Yeah, I think most horror movies kind of have that element, too, of, like, the people that are suffering it are like kind of buying into the monster or something, and like
well, there's a kind of fascination about it in the first place, and thus is the basic germ of this whole movie is Dasha being fascinated, not just like repulsed, but fascinated with this whole Epstein thing. And she obviously knows it's a disgusting thing to be fascinated with, but, well, I don't know, it's a disgusting film.
it's so disgusting. Like, I just had to cover my eyes for like at least 2 scenes. I was just like, I'm actually just not watching this. Like, it's too grotesque.
It's just degrading.
It's so awful. It's like we watched the review, or not watched the reviews. We
went
read
through the
some
reviews.
reviews before, and people were saying like, this is like softcore porn, and I was like, what does that even mean? Like, you know, you watch like Eyes Wide Shut or something, and like you could say that about Eyes Wide Shut. That's a totally different experience. And this was so like, if this was pornographic, that is not porn that I would ever watch. Like, so just degrading, only degrading, not sexy.
Maybe there's a silver lining there with the comparison to Eyes Wide Shut, and she brings that film into mind herself in the movie. She directly
references it.
Directly references it at the end of the film. So maybe there's a silver lining there where I'm thinking of the experience of watching Eyes Wide Shut, and walking through the orgy scene isn't degrading. It's mysterious and exotic.
Right.
And so the service that this film is providing is saying, no, this shit is real. It happens, and it's the most despicable shit you can imagine.
Yeah, that's good.
There's nothing exotic or beautiful about what these Illuminati bullshit people are doing.
Yeah.
It's just gross.
Good. Yeah, good point. That's good.
But I feel like that's like giving her too much credit, because it wasn't a very good film. It was shot on film.
It was? You figured that out?
I figured that out.
That part was like so beautiful. I could tell that from the beginning, and it was wonderful to see. And yeah, more movies should do that. The
opening credits, just shots on film of the gargoyles and the stone or the plaster cherubs with the pink title cards. Yeah. And really nice. Anna's BF Eli soundtrack. Yeah. Super good.
Yeah. The aesthetics of the whole thing before it gets really grotesque is like totally an American Apparel ad. And it's funny how like it seems very self-aware of her at some level. Like, she knows that she is the image of what those people, she's the customer of those retailers, and she's like the image that those their customers are aspiring toward, and like can kind of both be like critical of it and have a subjective view of it, but also she like is currently on the ads for Los Angeles Apparel, which is like the second version of American Apparel. So these like images of like incredibly plain but kind of nice looking white rooms and girls in like little skirts. It's like flattering clothing but not like overtly sexual, and everything is kind of simple enough that it doesn't have like too much personality. Like the fact of the feminine is what's being expressed by it. But also like schoolgirl skirts, and so like gesturing toward underageness and weird shit like that.
It would have been nice to have even more of that, like the not the underageness, the culture that Dasha is steeped in and critiquing, but partaking in at the same time.
Yeah.
It was this completely isolated
like
epic.
it's just these girls that are
just
weird.
these girls.
Oh yeah.
And, and there was no like scene involved.
That would be interesting, yeah.
But yeah, it was just these girls, and so this film does end up being some kind of statement about the feminine mystique itself. And well, I'm starting to peter out and ready for halftime.
Okay.
We do need to say at some point, like, who Dasha is.
Yeah.
Or, like, say it in the...
I know.
Like,
I was going to say, so...
website or something.
Alex and I both listen to Red Scare Pod a bit, which is Dasha Nekrasova and Anna Kachian.
That's close enough.
Okay, sorry, Anna. And so I wanted to watch this film because it's like kind of... Would you describe yourself as a fan? I don't think I would say fan, but we follow these two. Like we're fans. Are we fans?
We're fans. This is what every Red Scare fan goes through when they realize they're a fan of this show.
Shit.
Oh God.
And so
we're fans, and we are aware that Dasha is an actress,
yes.
and she made this whole film herself.
Yes, and she made it during COVID, and it was like her COVID project, and well, this is my COVID project. And so then it was like, oh, when can we do a film desk on this movie she made? And then for the house theme, I was like, this is perfect, because it's like a haunted house movie, because the apartment is haunted by this conspiracy.
But they didn't use the apartment to my satisfaction.
Yeah, like the only time it's really interesting is that moment with the realtor at the beginning where they're like, oh, this door, and then
oh
at
my
the
God,
end,
they spend so much time on that fucking door that locks, and that they don't do anything with it.
I know, they could have really like...
Yes.
Yeah.
Done something.
Yeah, but it's also, that's just from our perspective, being really focused on like house.
Nuh-uh. Because
Really?
they spent the running time to describe how the doors and the locks work exactly. And it's that, like, shotgun hanging in the living room,
That's
whatever
true.
question. Like,
Yeah.
when's the shotgun gonna get used?
Yeah.
I hated that fucking realtor guy at the end. I hated that scene so fucking
Me
much.
too. Yeah, I was
Hated
like,
that so much.
oh,
Like,
we're doing this shit.
like the realtor is revealed at the end to be this demon ghost, satanic, like Epstein emissary that like helps these girls go further into the possession.
Yeah, because Noelle was kind of the one that was the least possessed by it.
Yeah.
And suddenly she becomes...
His like servant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it comes down to this question. You asked while we were watching this, you were like, why did this movie get made?
Yeah.
Well, either you implied or said it out loud, why are we watching it? But we just tried to answer why we watched it. And the bigger question is, why the fuck did this movie get made? Anyway, let's take a break and...
Think about that one.
Good movie for a first date?
So I say absolutely not. Your idea that like, well, you can laugh it off and then it's like more about like the interaction between the people than just like focusing on this film is that's like a good idea of how to pick movies for a date. Like that's fun and like I get that. But if someone, I would be like, turn this shit off. Like, no way.
Yeah, I've never understood. This is actually the first B movie I think I've like ever watched all the way through.
Yeah, probably me too. I don't know. I just watched The Love Witch.
I don't know what that
Seems
is.
like a B movie. You don't need to.
Cool. But it seems like people like are able to watch these kinds of films and like absorb them and have them in the background and like are okay with these things. Which I guess is some kind of like trash life vibe that neither of us really understand.
Well, yeah, I guess if you're like invested in like Twitter discourse and like want to be like on the pulse of the culture right now, rather than just like what's the most beautiful thing that I can see, then you would like want to watch this movie and be like, you know.
So what were the most beautiful parts of this movie?
Well, I like the introduction with like the fact that it's on film and just shots of Upper East Side architecture.
Yeah.
And there's some nice scenes of like Dasha and the Noelle character walking around the streets, and like their outfits are cute and they're just like girls kind of being moody and like observing things, and there's something fun about that. I thought there would be more of that, because that's kind of what the trailer looks like, is like they're on a mission around town, like navigating New York and
yeah, but the mission was just incoherent.
yeah, I mean they're so like drugged out.
Yeah.
Just like too interested in the villain to even
Yeah, like they try to give like gestures as if they're unraveling some sort of mystery.
Yeah.
They don't unravel anything.
Yeah, there's
The most like unravelly moment was going into the magic crystal shop
yeah.
and having a creepy magic
Sure.
crystal man tell them that they're in trouble.
Right, yeah. The scene, there's like, Dasha's character shows up to this apartment that the Noelle and Addie character just started renting and moved into. And Dasha's character is pretending to be like a realtor, and she wants to get inside for that reason. And then she has to admit that she's just like kind of doing like detective work to figure out more about this case. And Noelle's interested and kind of gets roped into the whole thing. And as they like just keep like looking at the drone footage of Epstein's island and things like that, Dasha's briefcase kind of becomes the like magic box that all of this conspiracy spills out of.
Yeah.
And so there's like, you know, pictures and like fishnets and like drugs just spilling out of it. And that is laying on the floor open on this fuzzy carpet. And then there's like a string of Christmas lights on the other side. And those things are framing the girls in the middle while they like talk. And that scene is kind of cool. I like all the textures and the color of the light. And
Yeah.
yeah.
You're trying. I'm almost trying to like ask myself how you could save this movie, but like I don't even want to try to go there.
Yeah. Well, I think like, yeah, the best thing that this movie could do is like an Eyes Wide Shut thing. But your point is right. I think that like it's that the best thing this movie does is expose that an Eyes Wide Shut telling of this tale is like completely unhelpful. And
Yeah, Eyes Wide Shut is like compelling because it's otherworldly, and you feel like you're like into this other world,
yeah.
and it's this like garden of earthly delights, like this other dimension.
Yeah.
the actual intrusions of this evil are not like otherworldly at all. They're just like pathetic and perpetrated by very small, pathetic people.
Yeah, I think that's the revelation about, I said this earlier, but the revelation about so many sexual predators that's so, like, strange is they're so pathetic. Like, as a woman, so you feel vulnerable, and uncovering a story like the Epstein story is like, yeah, see, I am vulnerable. Like, look how vulnerable I am. Look what people are doing. This is so fucked up. It's so crazy. And yet, at the same time, what's strange is, like, a lot of sexual predation comes from, like, so much patheticness. Like, men that are just, like, so helpless to their own desire and, like, completely, they're emasculated. Like, they emasculate themselves. It's like so.
It's almost like the critique question of, did anyone have to be stupid to move this story forward? Like, so many stupid decisions.
Yeah.
Piled on stupid decisions. Piled on stupid decisions.
Yeah, like, if one person was smart in this movie, the plot wouldn't have moved forward. Like, Greg being smart, you're like, wait, is anything gonna, like...
So is there anything to say about the end of the movie where she's the only one, she's the last girl and she's the only one alive, but now no one will believe her that this crazy demon ritual happened? Because it all disappears, all the evidence disappears supernaturally.
Right. Well, I was thinking about how, like, that all the different women are, like, projections of Dasha's own psyche. So the Addie character, who gets the most possessed and has, like, the most grotesque scenes of, like, what possession looks like, is kind of the most vulnerable aspect of the feminine. And then the Noelle character, I don't know how to... She's like... she just carries herself in, like, a less sexual way. She doesn't seem vulnerable. She seems more boyish. And she becomes interested in, like, knowing about this conspiracy, but she's never the one that's, like, really, like, sexually vulnerable, if that makes sense. The fact that it's Dasha's character that's left, like, still standing at the end, it's her character that shows up with, like, the briefcase and wants to know things, and it's, like, because she can kind of, have, like, a, like, Gnostic perspective of trying to uncover knowledge, but also is in touch with her own sexuality in some way. There's, like, some synthesis that she represents.
Sure.
And
so she's able to toe a line.
Yeah.
Walk some center path through the Epstein demon
Oh
quest.
My God. Like, I guess compared to the other girls, she's like more real.
Yeah, that was a thing I thought about this movie. Like, specifically with that question, did anyone have to be stupid to move this plot forward? And then, well, everyone's stupid. Yeah. And then I was like, none of these people are even real. Not like
behaving in a real way.
Yes, no one was behaving in a real way.
That's interesting to hear you say that, because, like, I don't think Lynch's characters are necessarily behaving in a real way, you know.
But they're performing in an archetypal way. Mm-hmm. Like, you still understand.
Yeah.
Like, when they react to things, like, those are real reactions, and
yeah,
they are. Yeah, they're like there's the uncanny valley is there, and it's very strange, but it's like deeply, deeply human at the same time.
Yeah, like Lynch's characters are kind of like hyper real, so you have to just suspend disbelief, but this was buy into a specific breed of
I think it was just not very well written dialogue. And who knows how hard that is. Neither of us have tried to write scripts before.
Yeah.
So we don't really aren't aware of how easy or hard it is to write characters that actually like feel like humans.
Yeah.
But yeah, none of these people were like reacting in, or at least you didn't understand why they were acting in the way they did. Okay, so
Can we say more about this? Is there...
there's the question of, is there a single moment that illustrates the soul of the film?
So I think that's an opportunity for me to say how much I just absolutely hate Dasha's scene where she like tries to prove that Epstein couldn't have hung himself because she sets up a fake noose and like reenacts the thing, and it's just like, what is it, like 60 minutes of her trying to choke herself?
And not 60 minutes. It feels
like 60 minutes. It's awful. She just like, it's just like these awful scenes of close-ups of her face while she's like choking, and it's horrible.
It was really terrible. Yeah. Yeah, is that the soul of the film?
Maybe the soul of the film is the possession scenes with the Addie character where she's like being disgusting with Prince Andrew images.
It's so terrible.
Yeah.
It's so terrible. God.
We didn't like this movie very much.
No. For us, the soul of the film is the Ghislaine Maxwell joke with Anna.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Having a cameo of Anna Kachian and then calling her Ghislaine Maxwell is just funny.
Yeah.
And the soundtrack was really good. And so the soundtrack was just was often, not the whole time, a lot of it, I imagine, was just unique Eli shit. But a lot of it was also direct references to Goblin,
Okay.
the band who did all the music for all the Argento films. Oh. And so a lot of Argento soundtrack included was in this film, and he is Italian, and he did the first Suspiria.
Okay.
So that's some of the soul of the film.
Yeah.
Is Argento vibes.
That's cool.
And Rosemary's Baby, and apparently Eyes Wide Shut, because it's like devoted to Stanley Kubrick at the end, which bad move.
So I have a new prompt, which is like if I was hosting a dinner party and this film was one of my guests, like who else would I seat it next to?
Yeah. And
it would be like writing me letters being like, please seat me next to Eyes Wide Shut. Like I really, really want to talk to Eyes Wide Shut. It's like big crush on Eyes Wide Shut. I just, give me one chance. And Eyes Wide Shut would just feel like me like, and I would not seat them next to each other.
Never let her close to Eyes Wide Shut. And Eyes Wide Shut will never come to one of your parties.
Exactly. I'd probably put it next to one of those like million porn documentaries that exist, like Life After Porn.
Well, so I said outside that I wish the film was more seated in New York City.
Yeah.
And had more of context and more of a place, so that it wasn't so just isolated.
Yeah.
Or if it was going to be isolated, if that's the vibe, if it's only these 3 or 4 people, then like keep it all shot in the apartment only.
Yeah, and make the apartment really felt even more.
And never even show shots of what people do outside, like have that all happen off screen if it's going to be isolated. But if they're going to be wandering around the town, like, yeah, I wanted more. What does this have to do with New York City? Why is this a New York City story?
Maybe that's why it's actually like Anna's scene is like more than just a funny joke, because that's like this feeling that when you're in a city like that, like all the big characters are potentially just like on the next block,
Right.
but also like there's just random people walking around and like kind of like how close to this conspiracy are you, and whose story are you in, and
Yeah.
And
it makes me wonder next, well, did Eyes Wide Shut do what I'm saying? Was that placed in New York City in some compelling way? It certainly was beautiful.
Yeah.
And they went with Tom Cruise to a lot of different places in the city.
Yeah.
And like through traffic and cars in the city and out into a forest.
Yeah.
Outside. I guess it was a story about the super, super rich that are there.
Yeah, and the interiors of that movie are so just interesting to see, and like you go to his patients' houses and they're so beautiful, and even his house is kind of like stunning, and then the houses of his patients are just like beyond, and then going into the costume shop is so interesting.
What's interesting about, I've already said this today too, but that film is interesting because the dialogue and acting is apparently bad a lot of times in Eyes Wide Shut too. But it's like in between this B-movie bad and this David Lynch bad the whole time.
Yeah.
Do you kind of know what I'm talking about?
I do, and I like can't understand what that means.
It's very
like,
strange.
Yeah.
And then it cuts this like really sharp contrast when like this strange dialogues with people, and now Pee Wee Herman is a hotel clerk, like giving the weirdest back and forth dialogue with Tom Cruise that like takes so long to like there's an emotional reaction that's very played, and then he says his line, and then Tom Cruise, like a shot of him just, and then he says his line after the emotion. Like sharp contrast between that and then these huge monologues, like Nicole Kidman's monologues, which are just like stunning and so human and so amazing, but still like even in those scenes I'm remembering now the like strain that's in those scenes, like it still feels a little put on at some points, but like the like you feel the effort and it takes you out of the experience a little bit, but it's so much effort that then it just brings you back in. Totally, because it's so long that you like have to maintain that focus. Yeah, part of the acting of this, I think it's like in the spirit of like Red Scare or something. It's like chill pod, like nothing requires overacting. Like we're past the idea of like. Oh, the acting was so bad though. Right, but I'm just trying to like why was it so bad? Like I think, and I said like that scene in the kitchen where the exposition happens. Like it's God, I'm trying to say a lot about this movie that does like that, you know. They're creating a picture of a generation that's like doesn't feel that there's all that much import to their interactions or what they say, and so they're just not going to cut to the heart of things or like have huge emotional expressions. It's going to be a lot more kind of
bored sounding.
Yeah. It's just that much more tragic to... Well, that bored chillness does not pair with the grotesque degradation. I mean, it does, but it doesn't.
Well, it like creates it because like
Right.
for the generation, like
Right.
we're so numbed out to everything because we're just constantly like steeped in clickbait shit, and then like in terms of sexuality, it's like this generation that grew up with porn, so what's exciting? Like it's more and more extreme and like weird.
Well, anything else?
Well, I was gonna say what
What do you got?
one of my new prompts is if I wanted to make a Halloween costume out of this film, what would it look like? And it would be a like Brandy Melville American Apparel type of outfit, like super basic, like high knee socks, little like schoolgirl skirt, but then like a disgusting little t-shirt with Prince Andrew on it. It's disgusting. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, there's another silver lining of it to like make sure that Prince Andrew gets forcibly inserted into the Epstein conversation.
Yeah, that's true. That was avoided.
Yes.
Yeah. Destroy him. Yeah, and it was funny to see like the amount of shit they were talking about the royal family, and this film came out before the Queen died, but now we're on the other side of that, and that's kind of...
Yeah, we all like love the Queen now.
Yeah.
Well, the worst film we've done.
Yep, for sure.
So far. Hopefully it'll stay the worst film.
Yeah.
I can't think what personal thematic reason would compel us to watch a movie that we knew was going to be at this level again. Except watching Dasha's next director.
Oh God. I don't think I'll be sold anymore. It'll take a lot more enticing.
Yeah, maybe I'll go into it first and tell you. Yeah.
What's it like in there?
Yeah. Well, I love Anna a lot. That was my favorite parts of the film. It's just Anna shot on film.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. More of that. It was, did you watch her episode with Eric Weinstein?
Oh.
Eric Weinstein is Brett Weinstein's brother.
Right.
He's a nerdy mathematician. His podcast is called The Portal.
So it was on his podcast? No, I haven't watched that. No.
Yeah, I wish it was taped. I wish they would film their pods or have like more filmed pods. The Red Scare girls.
I respect that they don't. I feel like
it allows them to do what they have to do. But I just love Anna's look so much.
Yeah, she's beautiful.
Yeah. Okay, last question. What color plastic VHS is this film?
Oh.
It's a little deeper red than straight pink, I think.
Oh, really? I think it's the pink of the title card font, right?
Yeah, for me it's a little deeper red than that, so that the pink on the font can be on the sticker and be on black and be a different than the more slightly harder red of the plastic.
I think it's that pink color, and it's like a white font on it, and it looks like a cute like girly movie, and that's why it's so creepy, because it's like, should we watch this movie?
Well, I love observing my Mandarin magazine impulse to like, no, we haven't found we have to
fix it. Yeah.
We haven't found the meta narrative of this terrible film.
Yeah. Well, I just don't relate to the conspiracy theory obsession, really. Like, I think I'm still part of this culture. Like, you know, I do buy into, like I shopped at Brandy Melville. I like the little skirts. I like, there's, I'm on the internet. I'm complicit, but like also, yeah, it's hard for me to relate to the interest in any way.
We were contemplating doing The Shining for this theme. That'll be interesting if we ever do Kubrick.
Yeah.
If we can, I'm sure we would find new angles to give to those, because those are like the most analyzed films ever.
Right. But
I think we could.
Every time I watch them, I find something new to me, so it would just be fun. But before we end, you watched Coraline. Do you want to say a couple things about Coraline?
Oh, do I want to say a couple things about Coraline? The house itself was cool, and for the house theme, that was cool. Like, it's a big house that's been separated into different apartments. So she has her adventure, but then she like sees that all these other people are having different adventures and different lives and different stories in different parts of the house.
Yeah.
And that's cool. Is the amount of work to make that movie is like beyond my capacity to understand. Like,
the claymation.
Like, do you understand what $1 billion is? No, you can't.
Yeah.
Like, seeing it in front of you, like, wouldn't even like bring it home how much wealth that is. Like, I kept losing it. Like, I kept forgetting. I thought it was CG. Like, it kept like blending in my mind to like.
Yeah.
Because I could not fathom that was physically being made in front of me.
Wow,
it looked that good that I kept forgetting, and like my mind kept switching into, this is just computer CG.
Yeah, I grew up watching that movie, so I just accepted it and never thought about that backside of it. That's amazing.
Yeah, and well, it's so well done in that way that like it almost is a failing of the movie. Because Nightmare Before Christmas, it's more jerky.
Yeah.
And so you can see how physical it is.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so gripping to watch Nightmare Before Christmas. Because, there's less frames. So it's a little more jerky.
Well, I don't think that's a failure of Coraline. I think it's like amazing.
Well, what good is that work if you can't like tell? If it's invisible, then it like...
Well, it still is just more felt than CG. Like,
that's true.
It just impacts you, like, that I can dream about that movie in a way that I can't dream about, like, I don't know, Tangled or something.
I think the best part of Coraline was the opening credits where the spider witch is making the new puppet to prepare for Coraline's arrival, and all you see is her hands slicing open a puppet and turning her inside out and then re-sewing it into a new puppet. And that was terrifying to watch. It was like a really great song going with it that was towing this balance between pretty and innocent and curiosity, exploration, and horror, and scary. The music was while you were watching that, like threading needles and taking stuffing out. Yeah, that was terrifying to watch, but I was also in a mood, so it was just like impacted me. It was definitely a Neil Gaiman bullshit story. Like, I didn't like that aspect.
You didn't like the story?
Well, Neil Gaiman, like, it's like this, like, Seattle hipster, like, needless twists on things to make things a little shittier. Yeah. To, like, add some kind of, like, Pacific Northwest or edge to it or something.
Yeah, totally. That is so true. Yeah.
And everyone is ugly. Yeah. Like, no one just gets to look, like, good. Everyone's deformed in some way. Yeah. And, like, that's supposed to make it more human or relatable, but, like, I'm definitely with Ayn Rand on that. Like, you don't help humans by like making the actors on the screen look ugly.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's like the reason that Coraline is dreaming of something else, you know. It's like she doesn't feel that her life is beautiful. But that's surprising for me to hear because you liked Tim Burton so much.
It's so much different with Tim Burton.
Mm-hmm.
Like
he does actually have beautiful things going on.
And the creepy shit itself is very beautiful. And he's showing you the heart of something, the way like cartoonists can show you the heart of something more than like something on film.
Yeah.
And with Neil Gaiman's thing, it was just like arbitrarily marring people's faces and forms.
Yeah.
It was arbitrary distortions. Except for the dad, that was like a very like spot on like depiction of that like nerd dad.
Yeah.
That was very accurate to
Yeah.
that vibe.
His computer breaks. He's like, ah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love, there's this song from the soundtrack called Exploration when she's just like wandering around the house and like kind of looking through windows and walking up the stairs and looking in the closet and just checking out the new place. And it's like raining and the song like makes the sound of like the raindrop and it's so beautiful. And I love that beginning part.
It was good. It wasn't great, but it was good.
I guess what I love is one building split into apartments has not just the story of one family, which is pretty good because you've got multiple characters there.
Yeah.
But you've got several different households in the same building.
Right.
So that's just like a really interesting...
Yeah, and that was very cool to like see
Yeah.
all the different stories and all the different like Neverland ideals of each one of their stories.
Oh, yeah.
Each one of those stories had this like, if only I could have reached this thing.
Yeah,
That then
totally.
she gets to like see what their dream was, or like the easy Neverland version of the dream they're trying to make.
Yeah, totally. And and then like going into the Dark Paradise version of the house is like I love the portal that opens up, and that's so cool, and
the
the
like
magic of it.
the layers of colored paper.
Yeah,
that was really amazing. Yeah.
And the dad's garden, that's all beautiful, and the music that the garden plays is like so wonderful.
Yeah, some completely beautiful things that gave me a real sense of awe.
Yeah.
Like, how did they make this image? Like the cutouts of the mice making a like floating paper circular mandala design.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
That was like, so what are they? How did they do that?
Yeah.
How did they do any of this? But Nightmare Before Christmas was better. And you got Danny Elfman making some of the best fucking songs.
Well, let's see. Growing up, I liked Coraline way better. I think it's because it's like the themes of Coraline were just more directly relatable to me as a kid. So what's really better?
The story was good, but it wasn't It was executed in a shitty, lazy Neil Gaiman way. Like, there were parts of it that were just dumb. Like, parts of the dialogue that was just, like, straight out of a fucking video game.
Yeah.
And every line of Nightmare Before Christmas is, like, perfect. Like, everything fits.
Is there any last thing we should say about the house theme while we're in this creepy haunted apartment movie?
We're gonna do more on this theme, more films on this theme. And
Oh, yeah, I have, like, one of the opportunities with the fact that this is an apartment and not a house is what do the other tenants in this building have to say about it? And
Oh,
they
yeah.
never make anything out of that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's impossible to apply standards of our theme of our magazine.
We can do whatever we want.
But Greg should have been another tenant.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And they start dating once she moves in.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she keeps trying to see him because she wants to now get information, and he's closer to it than she feels because he's been there longer, and he's like, no, those people were weird and I don't want any part of this.
Yeah, and you can play with, like, things happen in this apartment. Did Greg hear it upstairs? And then something different happens in the apartment. Did Greg hear that? No, it didn't make any effect.
Right.
So, like, sometimes the haunted apartment is in the physical world, and Greg hears it. Sometimes it's in the underworld, and it makes no visible. It doesn't leave any evidence.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Thanks for playing.